Welcome to a Bucks versus Raptors post-game show, game number one. And today's guest is Warren Shaw from the NBA Baseline podcast. How are you, my man?
My dude Leo was good, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been a couple minutes here, but the main thing, I get to reciprocate. You've been on our show a couple of times, so it's great to be able to join you right now, bro.
Absolutely. Always love joining your guys' show. Today, you're more of my co-host. We're pretty much going to break down the entire game. I have my notes. I'm sure you have yours. You were tweeting all game long. Always love the insight that you give all NBA fans. Should definitely follow you on Twitter. That's at Shaw Sports NBA. Before we get into everything, Warren, what was your biggest takeaway? Just one thing that really stood out to you today.
Milwaukee just being the team that I think they've been showing all year. Being able to win ugly. I think I just tweeted that out as well. I remember I'm an older dude, man. I remember watching some of those old Bulls teams and when Jordan and them would win ugly, and it was Doug Collins on the NBA on NBC
Right.
say things like, "Hey, man, when the team wins ugly and can get it done in the playoffs, that's the sign of a championship team." And Milwaukee didn't have it all tonight. But to me, I think they just continue to stay the course, and that's what they've been doing all year. Get contributions from Lopez, comes out of nowhere to do whatever he did tonight. Malcolm Brogdon, second game back. Just the fact that Milwaukee is able to persevere when Toronto was really punching them in the mouth for the good part of this game.
That's right. Brook Lopez had a monster game today. I thought he was really good. But Kyle Lowry, I want to give the Raptors a lot of credit. I've been on record talking about Kyle and how I don't trust him in big time moments. Today, he showed up. And even though the Raptors, their starters went 3 of 16 down the stretch, I felt like that was more fatigue. But if we get this aggressive Kyle Lowry, the guy who dives on the floor, takes charges, and shoots the way he did today, I feel like the Raptors have a good shot at taking this to 7. I still think the Bucks at their highest peak is still a better team. But just real quick, talk about how great he was today. And do you think this is sustainable? Can you see Kyle doing this for more than 4 games?
Wow. Well, I don't think he can shoot 7 of 9 again. I mean, that 7 of 9 from 3-point line is just pretty absurd, especially on the road. But he had a point to prove. And one of the things that we even said on our show, on our podcast, NBA Baseline, was that Lowry at least needed to be even with Bledsoe. He could not lose the matchup against Bledsoe, but he really surpassed him tonight. And if he can play anywhere near this level, and one of the things that Lowry gets a bad rap for, and I agree with you. I'm right there. I'm hanging on this guy saying like, yo, when's he going to be consistent? But a lot of times it is just offensively that he struggles. He's, coming into the game, he's shooting 28% from the 3-point line and roughly like 42% from the floor in general. But he still does some of the other things. He gets his other guys involved and he's still out there trying to play defense. But when his shot doesn't fall, he gets a little bit reckless, I think, at times as well, too. And that can and then he gets into CP3 zone where he's complaining about everything. He's running people over, and doing some of the foolishness that doesn't need to be happening out there. But if he can play anywhere near this level, I think maybe even in the 18 to 21 points per game type of thing with the same 8 assists, 5 rebounds, and just decent efficiency, then Toronto's going to be in good shape.
In terms of matchups, I felt like the big star-setter rivalry between Kawhi and Giannis, we thought we would see a lot more of them this game. We really didn't see them match up much, besides maybe down the stretch where Kawhi had a nice block on the Greek Freak. But were you surprised that Coach Nurse ended up going with Siakam on Giannis?
I wouldn't say I was surprised because I think that's what they've been trying to do. And I think a lot of teams want to use their bigger players. And again, obviously Kawhi's a great defender as well, too. But Kawhi has to do so much for them offensively that I'm sure he was trying to save him a little bit, on the offensive side from having to guard Giannis on a regular basis. And I think what you'll see probably down the stretch is more some situational type things. And if, I think Nurse has got to be smarter about getting Kawhi his rest differently. I think he took a rest. I think it was the beginning of the fourth quarter, and that's when they made their run or whatever the case it be. I even said on Twitter, I was like, "Listen, there was a 2-minute stretch in the third. I was like, take him out now, but don't let it be the fourth quarter. If you don't take him out now, then he's just gonna have to ride out." And unfortunately, again, not that I say no, I know better than any NBA coach, right. But I think in some ways, that was probably where he messed up a little bit. But we'll probably see some more Greek on Giannis in more situational matchups down the line.
Right. And at one point in that first quarter, the Raptors were so hot that they had 18 of their 22 points were 3-point shots. And I've never seen all these guys shoot with so much confidence. And Brook Lopez, after the game, was talking about that confidence and how he said that they got punched in the mouth, but they kept playing their game. He eventually knew that their shots would go in. That's what the Bucks play. They were playing at a Bucks pace. The Raptors were beating them at their own pace. That's what I was tweeting as well. And yeah, Siakam was scoring with full confidence. Do you feel like Siakam needs to be this aggressive every single game? And how will that really help them when it comes to playing defense? Because now they can rest a guy like Kawhi Leonard, like you said. But can Siakam sustain this type of confidence?
Well, I think confidence-wise, for sure, and I think it's a great question. One of the biggest keys to this series was we know Toronto can go into those long droughts, where they don't score and it's just heavy Kawhi and only Kawhi because Lowry's not hitting. Gasol's scared to shoot. Ibaka hasn't really been giving them much, and their bench in a lot of ways is dissipated from what was supposed to be one of the best benches in the NBA. Danny Green, same thing, just not quite where he needs to be. Siakam has been the second guy all season long, and yeah, he was 6 of 20 tonight. But in all the games versus Milwaukee this year, he was in the lowest points per game he scored was 17, and he knows what his role is supposed to be defensively as well too. So he's still a young guy. Got that great switchability as we alluded to. I think he was also trying to be the sag man and said, all right, Mirotic or whoever, you're going to be the one to shoot the three. Cool. But I feel like I can get back out there and I can still help on Giannis in the paint. But Siakam has to be a guy that gets some double-digit points on a regular basis. And in the high teens, low 20s, I think is where he's really going to need to be, in addition to Lowry doing what he needs to do, as we talked about a little bit earlier, bro.
You also have tweeted out that the 3-point guards played for about 2 minutes, and after you tweeted that out, they kind of just took out Brogdon right after that. Do you see more of that 3-guard lineup in game 2?
And I'd have to go back and look at kind of the lineups and see had that had been played at all. I mean, I tweeted and I wasn't sure because it was foreign to me,
right.
And it seemed a little bit wild. And I would have to actually go back and look to see what Toronto had on the floor while Coach Bud felt like, that was a move to do. I don't know if I love it, but I'm also and I know I'm just not a big George Hill guy. I mean, I think he
Trust me, I know.
I think he overplayed himself in that Boston series, and it's like, all right, he came back to life, and now he's, like I said, he also turned back into a pumpkin, man. I don't know. Like I said, it's something that I think if you feel like there's a matchup there to take advantage of, but I'm not big on giving George Hill all those minutes, especially with the way Brogdon seems to be assimilating back into this lineup. I think he's going to eat away at Hill's usability in this series moving forward.
Right. Malcolm Brogdon, 3 of 6 from 3, 5 of 9 from the field. Super efficient. That's what he does. That's what this Bucks team really needs if they have a chance to not only advance, but potentially beat the Warriors. And I know it's kind of unfair saying that, but we kind of all know that the Warriors will probably beat the Blazers. They need Malcolm Brogdon. What did you like from him today specifically?
Aggressiveness. He wasn't always laser point shooting the three. He had a couple that were like hit the back of the
two of them. Really bad ones.
But he kept at it, and then I think there was times he attacked the paint as well too. And he talks on defense. He's just a steady force for what they need to do on both sides of the basketball. And they were able to take their time. And in some ways, while you would have said, always the old adage of did the rest help or hurt? I think for Brogdon, it definitely helped, just kind of getting his legs back and getting back familiar with the team. And not that he didn't know the schemes or things of that nature, but just that he can kind of come back in a good flow and Bud's bringing him along, slowly coming back off the bench right now. They haven't decided to change that lineup with Mirotic. So again, I just liked his overall aggressiveness and his confidence that he felt going into this game and what it seems to be like it's going to be the entire series.
I know Kawhi had 31 points, but I felt like Malcolm actually did a really good job on him defensively. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of shocked, to be honest, how sturdy and how solid, how strong he is. And even though you may think on paper, man, this is a mismatch, Kawhi had to earn all those buckets over Malcolm, and that just shows the versatility of the Bucks. Eric Bledsoe had 30 minutes today. I thought he was really poor. He did show some life on the defensive end, but this guy to me, I know he just got paid, man. He's such a frustrating player because he's so talented, right? But
Yeah.
then he has games like this, and I just question a lot of his decision making. What does he have to do differently in game two to really help himself and the Bucks?
Well, again, I think we're all there. I mean, the book is out on Bled, right? When you know what it is, he's definitely that roller coaster ride. And I
Mhm.
think there's times, where he lets hit the fact that he's not scoring offensively kind of impact what he's doing on the court, and just kind of it cascades into a lot of bad decisions. And I think he just needs to stay the course. He needs to take a cue from his leader and Giannis there. And really kind of the tenor of the rest of this Bucks team. They don't really get down on each other. So he can't get down on himself and go out there and do the things that are necessary to win. So hey, your shot's not falling. Well, go lock up Lowry. You know what I mean? Make sure Lowry's not getting his shot off, and that can lead into some better things for you offensively. If you take even in the case of Lopez, who we know has become a vaunted 3-point shooter. Well, his shot, as we alluded to, was not falling coming into this series. His shot wasn't falling to begin this game. He got a couple layups. Then he's like, all right, let me try a three. That went in, and he saved the course. He's playing good defense. I think Bledsoe just needs to do that as well too. Lock in where you can. Make sure that you're a contributor across all facets of your game, and don't let the offense be turn you down just because you're not scoring. Like I said, and I think he can be better at that overall. But again, we all know what Bledsoe is, man. He's going to be this roller coaster ride.
Right. I have to go back and watch some of the game, but I
Yeah.
felt like uh Brook Lopez wasn't utilized a lot in the pick and roll, where I think that would give him an advantage if you put Giannis or Middleton and then you bring on Brook Lopez with his ability to stretch the floor, and they did that a few times, I believe. Do you feel like that's an area where they can take advantage because of Brook's ability? And if he does roll, he's right there for an offensive rebound just in case any of these guys miss.
Yeah, I think we saw it maybe a little bit early on, and because he was driving, if that's what you want to call it, or
Right.
rumbling to the lane here and there, and some of that was off the picks. But for the most part, he is kind of a glorified spot up shooter. But I think Milwaukee does have an advantage there, depending on who they try to use on it. If they can do if they want to run the 4-5, the 3-5, the 2-5 pick and roll, they have a lot of different options, because of their length and their ability, even to space the floor at times. But a lot of times, that was the whole reason they brought Brook to be here, to go, hey, camp out in the corner, camp out on the wings, and let Giannis get downhill. But Toronto was doing a decent job of trying to make those passing angles and getting to the lane for Giannis a little bit more difficult. And that didn't always happen. But again, as I also alluded to, Gasol ended up being the help man a lot of times too, got sucked in. And then, by that time, Lopez kind of had it going. So Milwaukee's just a tough team, like you said, because they have all those different options, and they do, for the most part, really do believe in each other. And I really just love their overall team chemistry and how they just continue to stick to it, no matter if they're down or up in the game.
I agree with that. Team chemistry and just Giannis being that stable leader has really helped them out a lot. What did you feel like the Raptors did on defense in terms of guarding Giannis today? Did you like their approach?
Yeah, I did, and that's why I'm saying I think in the game two, I think you test it. If it's death by Brook Lopez, then it's death by Brook Lopez. But it's one of those things. Maybe try it for a quarter, for a half. But I think you do the same thing. I mean, Giannis still had 26 points or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Like
24.
it's just, yeah, he's still going to get his, one way or another, but it's like you have to let the other guys beat you. Milton did not play well. He hit a big three in the fourth quarter. I know that was just kind of, backbreaking when Toronto was trying to stem that tide there a little bit. But I think you try to run the same defense. You stick to Milton, don't let him get off. And if you get beat by Lopez and Brogdon and, of course, Giannis, then I think, again, you kind of tip your cap. But at the end of the day, too, I think you need more from the Toronto bigs offensively. Gasol was aggressive, then he was timid. One didn't go in. He's like, I did not want to shoot anymore. Then he passed up 4 or 5 shots until he was wide open. And sometimes they would even, if you were paying attention, like they would just pass blindly on the wing like it was hot potato. Like, I don't want it. And they just throw it to the corner, whether somebody was there or not. And a lot of times they were lucky, it was Green or somebody else who was able to catch it. But, you got to be able to be aggressive and look for your shot and make that Milwaukee Bucks defense really work and respect you, because that's what they were doing to them on the other side. So you got to feel like, hey, you know what, that shot's there. You got to go out there and take it and make it.
Right. And I was even saying with Marcus Gasol and Kyle Lowry that it just wasn't in their DNA to shoot, a high volume of shots. And
Yeah.
today, Kyle proved me wrong. Will he do it in game two? Who knows? But with Gasol, again, he was 2 of 11 from the field, 2 of 7 from three. But you hit it right and knows that he passed up a couple of those shots. So he was aggressive, then he was passive, and he was aggressive. But I feel like he needs to have that type of game like Lowry and just shoot the shot. Kawhi's gonna draw enough attention to himself where he's gonna be wide open, and that's what the Bucks are playing. And the same can be said for the Raptors. They want you to shoot more of that mid range shot because they are defending that three and they're defending the paint on Giannis. Is it kind of funny that they're both teams kind of had the same game plan today?
Yeah, no, I mean, but it's truly indicative of two great teams. You really did see that at the end where that wall, as they kept alluding to, that
Right.
wall was even starting to be built on even on Kawhi down the stretch, especially if you try to go down into the block and operate a little bit. And obviously, that's where he's a little bit different from Giannis because Kawhi will drive and pull up more likely than Giannis will.
Mhm.
Where Giannis is definitely going to try to go to that spin move, to the right. Where I think it's very predictable to me. But at the same time, sometimes if you don't have the right personnel, you just can't stop it, even though that's coming. And I think Toronto at least has a capability. And I don't know what this means for Gasol throughout the rest of the course of this series. Because Ibaka hasn't really been much better. But again, you just want to make sure that you keep people that are mobile and long and just not afraid to go in there and stick their nose in there and try to get in with him. Because again, it's also intimidating. He's big, man. He's physical. He hits you a couple times. You don't want that no more. At the end of the day. But I think again, like I said, this is you're trying to get to the NBA Finals, man. So you got to lay it all on the line and just go out there and kind of get it done.
Van Vliet today, 13 minutes. He was big time last year for them, but he's really struggled this season. Are you surprised that Jeremy Lin hasn't had a shot to maybe get some of his minutes?
Yeah, well, at this point, I think you start trying to figure out, all right, well, what can we do differently? I forgot to really look at kind of Powell's stats coming into to this series throughout the playoffs. I just know he hasn't been good, and
Mhm.
that's what I was alluding to a little bit earlier as well too. Like, what happened to this bench? Like, what this is supposed to be one of the best benches in the NBA. This is a guy who they called Van Vliet and Powell. Like, they called immediately, hey, we need to get you back here. We don't want to lose you, and those guys just haven't, they just haven't been there for me. But one other thing, and kind of veering off track here a little bit too, is I'd ask you a question. Do you think Toronto can do a better job, I think, on the glass offensively? That is such a, I don't know how many second chance points they had tonight, but I think they only had 8 offensive rebounds. I just feel like, that's something that they can try to do a better job at and try to make Milwaukee's defense work a second time. Because going up against that length the first time, obviously that's going to be difficult, especially inside offenses. And that's why you saw Toronto try to go fast tonight. They really did push the tempo a lot to begin
They did.
their sets. But again, if you're attacking the glass and trying to get some second shots, that's when your defense, the other team's defense, can a lot of times be out of rotation and maybe get some backdoor cuts like that. You think they need to do a better job on offensive glass and maybe get some easier baskets?
No doubt. Well, they lost that battle 15-8 today, and that's where the Bucks stayed alive, right? Uh, the Raptors were hitting 3-point shots. I believe I had written down that all 5 starters in that first half all made a three, which is something that I haven't seen in a long time. And when you say, again, 8 offensive rebounds to 15, that's where they stayed alive. And you have to start boxing out all these bigger guys on the glass. And to me, that goes back to Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. In 17 minutes, it's unacceptable to get 4 rebounds, right? You can't have that. And I get it. Sometimes Serge was on the perimeter guarding, but I felt like he lost about 2-3 of those rebounds just on effort. And they have to go back to the fundamentals and just crack down and just play a lot harder. This is the Eastern Conference Finals, man, and I just feel like to me, it was more effort. They have the athleticism to actually rebound. I know Kyle got a couple of rebounds in there. I mean, again, Kyle Lowry does all the little things, that any coach would love, right? He's the ultimate guy. And again, my biggest criticism was answered today. He was ultra aggressive, which again, is that sustainable? We'll see. But is there another guy on the Bucks to you besides Giannis and Middleton and Lopez that maybe surprised you a little bit today?
I mean, again, we talked about him, and that was Brogdon. Just again, second game back in the playoffs and just being as consistent as he has been.
What about Meritage?
Yeah, Meritage. I mean, he only shot 3 of 9, but he hit another. He hit another big three. He only hit 1 3, and that was a big three in the fourth quarter as well too. And that's what it talks about. And I don't want to curse on your show, but I talk about this all the time, and we know this on these teams. You need an a-hole. You just need somebody who
right.
I don't care what the moment is. I don't care. I just has that kind of irrational confidence. And Meritage, and it was still like a step back three. 2 or 3 feet behind the line. He shot it with somebody defending him, and hey, it happened to go in. But it was one of those things that really kind of broke the back. I think it was a couple shots after the Middleton three as well too. And when Lowry was trying to keep them and get them back in the game, but that 1-3 was massive for Milwaukee's there. And like you said, you just need those types of guys on your team to go out there and say, hey, I don't care. I'm go out here and I can be your hero sometimes as well too. But credit Bud and the Bucks for even embracing that. Again, that's what I say. It kind of goes back to that whole team chemistry thing. It's like, all right, Meritage, you probably shouldn't have did that, but you good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And working out.
That's a marvelous point, because I feel like that's going to be the difference between the Bucks and Raptors advancing. I feel like the Raptors don't have enough of those guys, and the Bucks do. Again, our biggest criticism coming into the game was these guys are passive, and who's going to help Kawhi Leonard? Siakam is Robin, but he was kind of banged up, and again, they don't have those assholes or those a-holes, right? That will just take that shot, kind of like in pickup, right? Where I do all the work, and then the dude's just there and he shoots the ball like. And sometimes he will make it like, damn it, he made it. We won the game. But sometimes you're like, damn, like that's just a bad shot. Obviously, context matters. And again, he made that shot, and that goes back, like you said, to Coach Budenholzer and his established culture, his leadership, and the stability of Giannis believing in these guys. Is there any final thoughts about this game and what we should expect in Game 2, Warren?
Well, let me just kind of even touch back on that same point, kind of with the a-hole situation. You're right, though. Toronto has a bunch of nice guys. Well, I know Ibaka, he'll mix it up here and there, but when it comes to just being like taking those big shots, none of those guys really don't have it. They're not that type of player. But that brings back to maybe your earlier point, where Jeremy Lin, he's been in those situations, and I think he could potentially be that guy. So maybe that is you emergency break glass. Let's try to see if we can get some Lin sanity going to try to get this going. Especially when it comes to some big moments. So it'll be interesting to see if Nurse tries to do anything with his bench and any types of rotations there. But as we move towards Game 2, I really would expect Toronto to have largely the same defensive scheme. I think Bud was probably going to do a little bit something to try to maybe get Middleton off and get him some better shots to moving forward. But I think Danny Green, here's the problem, and I don't want to ramble, but I think Toronto's guys spend so much time trying to defend and they're not as offensively gifted as Milwaukee is. So a lot of it is going to be taken out of them in that regard. So he will have to rely on his bench to kind of come in and say, hey, come in here, Norman Powell, give us 6 to 8 quick points. You know what I mean? Come in here, Fred VanVleet, come in here, Jeremy Lin. And they got to find ways to get some offensive relief because those guys are trying so hard defensively. And I think that's going to be a common theme throughout the series.
Just quick stat. Kyle Lowry was 5 of 7 in the fourth, and the rest of the Raptors are 0 of 15. Isn't that crazy?
0 of 15?
Yeah. Jeez. You saw it on Twitter. That's nuts. That's like the complete opposite of what we just said.
Yeah, just disastrous. Wow. I mean, even Kawhi. Wow, that's right. That's rough. That's really rough. But so, I mean, again, you wouldn't expect it to be that bad, in that sense, obviously. Especially for Lowry being that good and the rest of the team being that bad. But that's an amazing stat, bro.
So Game 2, what do you think is the biggest adjustment for the Raptors to steal a game?
Well, I think it's just kind of what I was saying, just trying to make sure that you can spread out your offense a little bit better. And obviously efficiency is always key. But, can Gasol and Ibaka, the bigs, when they're out there, can they contribute? And I think what we just talked about like a couple minutes ago too, the battle of the rebounds in the glass.
Mhm.
You've got to get some second chance points, especially if your shots aren't falling on your first overall possession. So I think they do a better job rebounding, stick to the defense that they had going into it, and they can try to get a little bit even more scrappy with Milwaukee. They have a very good chance. No one would be surprised if Milwaukee won in 5 and they're all 5 close games.
Yep.
But Toronto is a good basketball team, and they just need to go out there and prove it. And this was a tough one, no doubt. This is one they kind of let slip away. But again, I'm not discrediting them and saying Milwaukee's just a very good basketball team, so there's no shame in it. But Toronto has a very good chance in this series. What are your keys to the game 2? What do you think?
I think you just had a lot of good points, but
yeah, I rambled.
Siakam has to be more efficient. Again, 6 of 20 was hot in that first half. And my notes, I had him just see he was balling. He had that big dunk in that first half that really elevated the confidence of his guys. And I felt like in that second half, he kind of disappeared. So he needs to be, again, that Robin to Kawhi's Batman. He's the X factor in game 2. If we get half of what Kyle did, 15, I know he had 30 points. If we get 15 points from him, and then if Siakam can maybe get, 25 to 30, then I feel like that's a better formula for Toronto to win this game. That's what I feel like this series will be over in 6, to be honest. I would love to see 7 games, but again, I think you just hit it. We may have all close games, and still the Bucks can close this out in 5. Like, that's how good this team is. That's why the Vegas odds came down where Golden State is plus 120, and Milwaukee I think is like plus 170. So they're giving Milwaukee a shot to win the NBA Finals, which to me is like hell yeah, because I'm tired of watching the damn Warriors win, man. I'm a Kings fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Kings fan. I'm like, man, I'm tired of this. And I know I love their brand of basketball. Don't get me wrong, but I just want to see someone else win. And I feel like the Bucks have the best shot to beat that Golden State team, especially without KD. I feel like if KD's there, they're going 7. But if he's not there, do you feel like the Bucks can actually beat them?
I do. I really do. And I do call me, not superstitious, but nostalgic in some ways. I believe in teams of destiny. And it's just, okay. I see all the signs, of this kind of like going into Milwaukee's favor. And yes, the big bad giant, the Golden State Warriors can come here and, crap on your dream in a heartbeat. But I just really believe in what Milwaukee's been doing. And just the fact that they continue to stay the course, they can win ugly, they can win pretty, they can shoot the 3 ball, they can rebound. They have a superstar. They have a superstar that's not an a-hole in the locker room.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He's an a-hole on the court, though, and I love it.
Yeah, and again, even towards the stretch here, we saw him get down on the ground for a rebound. It's just like, hey, we need this possession, and not all superstars do that. And again, he's just next level to me. So I agree with you. I'm definitely tired of seeing Golden State. Let me ask you one thing, though, kind of non-related. Inside people, it's a question I'm asking all kind of basketball people out there. Do you miss LeBron in these playoffs at all? Has he even been like a thought, outside
I haven't thought about him, bro. Honestly, I haven't.
Yeah.
That's
Isn't it
funny.
great? Yeah, it's great. I've been asking a lot of people, and it's kind of the same response. So yes, we're all tired of Golden State, but the other thing too, we're tired of LeBron. We have LeBron fatigue versus Golden State, and I don't miss seeing him. I don't miss the drama at all of them being in these playoffs.
You know what I think it is? I think it's the iconic moments Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard has given us that it just LeBron hasn't crossed my mind because first of all, Giannis and Damian are 2 of my favorite players. So, and then Kawhi is too. So to me, it's like, man, as an NBA fan, those type of moments, you just cherish them because, I'm what, 26, and everyone, my older brothers, family members, other NBA fans, the older people talk about Jordan's day and his shots and even like Magic's shot and Larry's shot. And I'm like, man, like I didn't live through that, and now I get these moments, and I just cherish them, you know.
It's great, and that's what it's all about. And that's what I was talking about. Just seeing the players that have now and the players that have next in these playoffs. I think has been great. And it's LeBron. He still tries to tweet and get in there and compliment guys and things like that or whatever. But you're not playing, bro. So you're just a fan like us. Put your arms up and enjoy the ride, man. Because I think it's, and I think for the NBA, this is amazing too. Just to see these guys kind of do it without LeBron, and I'm sure they were hella worried. Worried. And while I may not know the the Nielsen ratings and all of that stuff right now, but as a fan, as a purist, I'm loving it. And I hope we get to see more of this.
Right. And just a sidetrack question, do you feel like Giannis, if he wins the championship this year, has a chance to be the greatest of all time? Because I don't think it's crazy.
The greatest of all time.
Like,
I'm not there yet.
Can he surpass Michael?
No.
Dude, I mean, he has no one.
No. He can like sniff the conversation, but no, I don't think he can get there. And we still have a lot to do on that. Oof. Give me 2 years. Can we have this conversation in 2021? 2021. Let's have this conversation again, because I got to see if the jumper develops, and and how many chips he ends up kind of accumulating amongst that time. And remember, the Bucks still got to keep this team together. I don't doubt that they will. But Milton's a free agent.
They got Mirotic. Yeah. They have Brook. They have Middleton.
Brook. Yeah.
All guys that if I'm the Kings, I would go after. Vlade, where are you, man?
I'm going after them too. But the other thing too, now when you talk about that, like you talk about the LeBrons, you talk about even the Kobe, well, maybe not Kobe, but if you talk about LeBron and Jordan, right, other guys wanted to go play with them. And I do think that's going to happen for Giannis. I think other guys are going to want to come play with him, even if they lose a Lopez or a Middleton. I think, again, it's going to be like, you know what? That dude's pretty dope. Let me go over there and see if I can join that team and help that guy get a chip if it doesn't happen this year.
Real quick, what do you think about Josh Jackson and him getting in trouble? Are you just done with Josh Jackson? Is he the next Ben McLemore in terms of so much talent but just can't get it together?
I mean, I didn't love him to begin with, so maybe that's maybe my own maybe personal bias, so to speak.
Some people said he was arguably the best talent in that draft, which is crazy to say now, right?
It's insane to say now. And I was upset. I think initially, not knowing how good, and I think that's even the waiver some too, what Tatum was going to turn into or what he is or whatever the case may be. I was like, oh, Jackson. But there's just some guys just don't get it, and I hope that's not what the case is for him. But it's, again, if he becomes Ben McLemore, yikes, bro. Yikes. So I think, but it's funny though you mentioned that, because you're hearing a lot of things about Phoenix right now and some of the stuff that they may be trying to do, because they got just utterly blasted in the lottery last night. Right. So I think their whole team is up for grabs, and if they can get somebody to bite on him and try to move up, packaging him with somebody else, I think they definitely would do that. James Jones rather. I think he's going to be a mover and shaker. He doesn't have the same talent roster that like Elton Brand did, but I think he's going to have that same mindset. He's going to want to, see what he can do and, not afraid to take some big risk out there. So let's watch the Phoenix Suns over the next month or so as the NBA draft approaches.
Can the Kings possibly get him on the cheap?
Do you feel on the cheap? Who you offering?
Just maybe like a future first round protected pick and some backup point guards like Frank Mason and Yogi Ferrell? Or is that like, or is he not that much of a headache yet?
That's a question for James. I just don't know what they feel like in that organization.
I mean, my man has money to get himself a VIP ticket, bro. I mean, why are you? It just doesn't make sense.
He's a wild dude. You want to bring that to Sacramento? I don't know about you. You mean you're coming off the Cuzzo era and all that stuff?
Established a little bit better than theirs, and I feel like he wouldn't be that star. He'd be more of a depth type guy, which the Kings badly need. So maybe, but again, you're right. It depends on what they're looking for. But I feel like right now, you can get him on the cheap, because again, who wants, just on the outside looking in, we think it's foolish. So his value must be at an all-time low, man. But I appreciate you coming on, brother. What type of projects do you have going on your podcast? Plug all that stuff in, man.
I appreciate you, man. Definitely, we're just right now we're covering the NBA playoffs like everybody else, doing our coveted autopsy reports when teams get the unceremonious boot. So we break them down, look like what the teams are going to be looking like and going to free agency and the NBA draft, of course. And then for me on the writing side too, writing for Close Up 360, doing a lot of special project with some of the NBA guys and some of their off the court lives. So stay tuned. Follow me on Twitter at Shaw Sports NBA. Follow the podcast at NBA Baseline. Thanks so much, brother. I appreciate the time, man.
Thank you so much, man. It was the last second. Again, appreciate you just coming on. And I know hopefully if you get a shot, we get to do this again during the series or even Portland, because I'm actually looking forward for the Blazers to win game 2. And I know I said the Warriors are going to win, but I feel like the Blazers can win game 2 and potentially even win 2 games in this series. What do you feel about that?
I'm in agreement with that too. I expect this to be a long series, but it's similar, not shocked if it's a competitive 5.
Right.
But I think Portland is, they're poised, and you just kind of wonder. You hate to say what if Nurkic didn't get hurt, et cetera, et cetera.
That's true, man.
But listen. You talk about a guy I've buried 1,000 times over. I was done with Rodney Hood, and I'm just now, like where did this come from? So the fact that he's being a reliable third option for them, obviously Dame and CJ struggled a little bit in that first game. Dame was crowded a lot. But I think if Hood can continue to play at that level, Kanter continue to hit the glass. And I know there's conversations of, can you even play Kanter in this series? He's he's getting the rebounding, but he's hurting you defensively. But anyway, I think Stotts has just done a great job with that team in general. One of the more underrated coaches in the NBA, in my opinion, just consistently. But I think Portland's going to be competitive throughout, and I think they can get to 6 games at least.
That is Warren Shaw. Thank you so much, brother.
My dude, anytime, and hope to talk to you again soon, homie.
Peace.
Easy.